triangle and 4 steps to diagnose plant problems, classification of plant disease, type of infection, type of perpetrate and spread, non-pesticide disease, and methods of management plant diseases. Alright, so what is plant pathology? Plant pathology is the science which deals with the plant diseases. It is concerned with health and productivity of growing plants. It is related in the most old and the new of science. You can find it in biology, physics, chemistry, genetics, soil science, biochemistry, and biotechnology. A Greek philosopher, Theophrastus, but his name, you can say in 13 many ways. I Googled it, it's ridiculous. People really don't know how to pronounce his name. He was the first to study and write about the disease of trees, cereal, and legumes. He mentioned that plants of different groups have different diseases. In his book, The Inquiry into Plants, he recorded his observation, imagination, and experience, but that was not based on any experiments. This is the cover of his book, and within his book, he talked about the plant physiology, the trees and plant propagation, wild trees, trees shrubs from abroad, medical use of plants, wood, understood for plant, herbs, and celery, and cereal and legumes. And this was all the way back in 370 to 286 BC. So you can imagine how far we have came and where we are now with science and plants wise. Now let's get into the plant disease in history. So in 1985, we should all know the Irish potato famine, which is also called the Great Hunger, a disease that has wiped out all the potatoes, the potato famine, which was called Phytophthora, which is a fungus that at the time, because it was 1845, they didn't have the equipment or technology that we have with fungicide or pesticides, anything like that. So it causes, it killed nearly 1/8 of the entire population. So it's either you think you stay there and survive or migrate to another area which don't have that kind of problem. The next disease is the Chestnut Blight disease. Now, this disease actually came from Asia. It entered to the United States by accident in 1904 in the New York Zoological Garden. It had currently wiped out all the American chestnut by now. The disease spread to the north, south, and the west of its entry point. Since then, the disease has killed all the Native American chestnut in the United States and in Canada. The Dutch elm disease. Now, this disease is not originally from the Dutch, but because of the early work of the disease was done by a Dutch plant pathologist in the 1920s, the disease can be called Dutch elm disease. This disease was introduced into the U.S. in 1930s. Now, let's talk about a plant disease triangle. A triangle is often used to illustrate how plant disease occurs. A disease will only occur when 3 conditions are present. 1, pathogen or disease-causing organism, such as a bacterium or a fungus. 2, you have to have the host that the bacteria can affect it. And 3, the environment condition for disease development. The 4 steps of diagnosing plant problems. 1, accurate identifying the host plant. Now, every species, varieties, and cultivars has their unique set of characteristics that often provide important clues to identify the source of a problem. That's as like if you're coughing and you're going about your day and you know what, I'm feeling kind of low and something must be wrong. You have to find out those signs or figure out those signs. 2, determine what is normal for the plant, like you would determine what's normal for yourself. Read plant's description and observe other plants of the species. Variety variety or cultivars to determine the normal appearance for that plant. And 3, learn common problems for the plant. Good references material, like buying books or looking at YouTube or looking at publications from a university can be good, can help you as you match up observation, description, or photographs. A typical plant disease and their related symptoms and signs. And 4, you have to really observe carefully to determine whether a plant problem has been caused by a living organism or by a non-living organism. Now, a living organism will be like a plant, well, a disease came from one affected plant to another, animals, fungi, or bacteria. Now, a non-living things will be water, sunlight, soil, air, or temperature. Now, to classification of plant disease, we have 2. We have one that's localized disease, and we have one that's somatic disease. Now, the first one, localized disease, these diseases are limited to an area of an organism or any part of the plant. So, for instance, if I have, for example, a cherry leaf spot, most likely the leaf spot is going to affect the leaves. It's not going to affect the roots or the stems. It's just going to affect the leaf part. And symptomatic disease, the pathogen spread from a single infection point as to infect all or most of the host tissue. So, for example, I have it's a cucurbit, and most of the cucurbits are affected by powdery mildew or downy mildew. So, with that pathogen, it affects the whole entire plant, not just the leaves. It affects the stem, it affects the fruits, and the flower also. Well, it doesn't affect the flower, but it can't produce a lot of flowers if that plant is affected by downy mildew because it eats up the energy from the plant. The type of spread. So we have airborne disease, soil-borne disease, and seed-borne disease. First, airborne disease. I really kind of like this kind of disease because it comes from the air. You really can't prevent it unless you have a closed area like a greenhouse. But if you really don't think about sanitation, keeping your shoes clean, any gloves or any tools, you can still get your crops affected. So airborne disease, in these type of disease, the agents are spread by air, by wind. So right here is a cucurbit. It is a pumpkin, and you can see the symptoms of the cucurbit powdery mildew. While it begins like a white powdery spot on the upper and the lower leaf surface, but it also can affect the roots. No, it also can affect the stem and the crop too. So let's say you have a pumpkin patch, and you usually grow this every year, and then your crop gets affected by powdery mildew. And this is a new crop coming up. Now, if it get affected, you won't have as much yield that you usually have in the productivity, or not a lot of flowers will be produced, and the tree or the crop will slowly just die off. Soil-borne disease. The causal agents that spread through the soil. So right here, this is a tomato plant, and with the soil-borne disease, pretty much let's say we have somebody who loves tomatoes. If you keep planting tomatoes in the same area over and over again, you're gonna have caused some disease in the soil, because when you plant a crop in the same place, it's either taking up so much nutrients that you can't replace it because you have to use different crops. So most of the disease like this come from the soil. So you have to make sure you treat your soil, make sure the pH is okay, so you won't cause certain disease such as this. And another one is seed-borne disease. Seed or seed material help in the spread of the disease. The disease can cause agents, maybe internal seed-borne or external seed-borne, meaning the disease can be in the seed or outside the seed before you plant. Now this is kind of hard because as for us regular people, we're really not scientists. We can't somehow bleach our seeds or use a well, we can probably buy a chemical to spray our seeds, but most likely we go to Walmart, just pick up some seeds, and oh, this is gonna work. We read the directions and we plant them. So it's really important to know where your seeds are coming from and just read about the company so you won't be wasting your money and wasting your time when you buy certain products of seeds. Now we're going to talk about the non-parasite disease. The first one is too low or too high temperature, lack or excess of soil moisture, lack of excess of light, mineral deficiency or toxicity, effects of soil pH and soil structure, effects of wind, methods to management plant disease. Our first one, which we should be all common with, plants grown out of their adapted habitat can be injured or killed by extremes in temperature. So to your left, this is a green pepper, and this is too low of heat. So pretty much, as you can see, peppers really don't like cold temperature. This is actually a false bite that's happened towards, or false front that had came around to the green pepper. So green pepper, you usually have to, when you do grow any crop, you want to make sure you read the directions. You want to know what temperature you're supposed to grow it in, what season you need to grow it in, what kind of pH level it needs, what kind of environment. And to your right, this is pepper leaves, and this is from drought. So the pepper leaves has been exposed to too much sunlight while any watering. So you have to make sure that when you do grow crops, you want to watch out for these certain signs, because it might be, if it's too hot, and let's say you water it about 3 days, and you have been growing it for some amount of time, you can lose the crops and the productivity that you desire. Another one is a lack of soil moisture. Now, a plant can become dehydrated during drought periods and may suffocate when poor drainage cuts out oxygen around the roots. Plant needs oxygen like human being needs oxygen. This right here is a drowning of tobacco plants under poor drainage, and the right is wilting tobacco grown in due of dry roots. So pretty much, you want to make sure when you grow your crops that when you water it, you don't want to suffocate it, or you just don't want to drown your plant. You want to make sure that when you water your plants, if you don't know if it's have enough water, just get your finger and stick your finger into the soil. Now, if you stick your finger into the soil and it comes back up and your hands is not red, that means you need a water. But if you stick your finger in the soil and it comes back up and it's like soupy in the water, you probably have you probably have a drainage problem in that area. So the best way to do that is before you plant your seeds to your area. Make sure you're not walking in the area that you are planting, because you don't want to compact that soil. That's really bad, because there's not oxygen getting in. Okay, so the lack of sunlight. Plants can exhibit other symptoms when they do not receive required amount of sunlight. Yellowing of the new foliage or the lowering plant leaves is an indication of insignificant light. Plants also exhibit symptoms such as pale color, some leaves, and poor growth, in addition to failure to flower and long and thin stem. So it's important to make sure wherever crop that you have or wherever plant that you have, they have the appropriate sunlight for them to grow. Plants need sunlight because they need sunlight for photosynthesis, which they give them energy and food to grow. And if you having certain crops, they really need that sunlight, especially in the summertime. If you're growing watermelons or peppers, stuff like that, they really need a lot of sunlight. Now, some plants don't. So you want to make sure when you go out to Home Depots or Lowe's or any place like that, you read up, you ask You ask the people that are working there, or you can just come to your favorite extension office and be like, hey, I want to grow such and such, and we can help you with that. All right, minerals deficiencies. A lack of elements such as iron or zinc may cause plant foliage to yellow. So it's good to know before you plant any crops that you want to do a soil test. The reason why you want to do a soil test because you probably have too much calcium in one area and not enough carbon dioxide in the area for certain plants to grow. Some plants is more acidity than others. So you want to make sure before you plant anything, you want to do a soil test, and we can do that here at the extension office. So for example, if it's too much nitrogen, it says the upper leaves are light green, with lower leaves are yellow, bottom or older leaves are yellow and shriveled. If it's too much, if it's not enough phosphorus, leaves are darker than normal and you lose your leaves. Now, if it's too much, it's not enough iron, your leaves are yellow and white and green veins, mature leaves are normal. So you want to make sure for you to have the desired plant that you want, you have to take care of your plant like you're taking care of yourself or like you're taking care of a newborn baby. All right, the effects soil pH and soil structure. So the pH of the soil is very important in the occurrence or severity of plant disease caused by certain soil-borne plant diseases, pathogens. Soil factors other than pH may also influence the development of plant disease. So if you don't have, like I said before, you gotta check that soil to make sure everything's okay, because if not, you could cause like root rot in your plants, or you can cause less development of fruit production or the desirable leaf color that you want. It will not be all green. Some plants, depending on what plants that you have, you could change the color of the plants depending of the pH if you want to. Now the effects of wind. Wind influences infectious plant disease primarily by increasing the spread of plant pathologies and the number of wounds of the host plants. These pathogens are fungi, bacteria, and viruses. So you want to make sure, well, it's kind of hard to figure out what kind of air you have in your neighborhood, but let's say you want to do a greenhouse. Now you could do, a certain greenhouse out here is affordable for us to do, or you could just make like, if you get like some sticks and some plastic paper and wrap around everything, you like do a small greenhouse for like your strawberries or your pepper to control the environment. But you want to make sure that anything that you touch, you don't transfer to the next plant. And you want to also, like, for me, I was working in a greenhouse at my university. My plant really didn't get affected because it was closed glass. It wasn't air coming through it. And also I was working in another greenhouse when I had my cucumbers in it, and I was growing cucumbers when it depends on certain days, but when the greenhouse walls went down for the earth circulation to come in, my plants got more affected during the time around. So it got affected by powdery mildew, and around that, powdery mildew pretty much affected plants around like 80 and 70 up to like 80 degrees. If it reached up to 90, then it will get killed off. But you want to make sure you really can't control the air around your crops, but if you do a greenhouse, that could probably eliminate some of the air disease that comes by. Okay, so the method to management plant disease. One is pathogen-free seeds. Seeds that is free from fungal, bacteria, and some viral pathogen is usually obtained by growing the crops and producing the seed. One, an area free of or isolated from the pathogen. Two, an area not suitable for the pathogen. Three, an area not suitable for the vector of the pathogen. The second one is crop rotation, the practice of planting different crops secretly on the same plots of land to improve soil health, um, optimize nutrients in the soil, and combat pests and weed pressure. So you want to make sure if one crop you're planting tomato here and another crop you do corn, switch them out. If you're planting cucumbers and you're planting peppers, switch them out. Make sure you want to rotate that area so you can have less disease or pest problems. Sanitation. This consists of all activity aimed to eliminate or reducing the amount of disease present in a plant, a field, or a warehouse area, and at preventing the spread of pathogens to other healthy plants and plant products. To do this, you remove the infected leaves of the house or garden plant, helps remove the reduce of the pathogen. You want to prune. So you take away the infected plant, any branches or leaves, or infected fruit. And when you do this, you want to make sure whatever tool that you use, instead of you cutting things out as you go by, you want it clean. So you cut one infected area, make sure you clean it off. You cut another, make sure you clean it off. Because you yourself can pass on pathogen to another plant. So you want to make sure you want to be very aware of what you are doing and who using your tools. If you're not even using your tools 1 week, make sure you're cleaning your tools before you start cutting anything and afterward, just to be safe. And that's it. Do you have any questions?
The